here we go. So what is this thing, innovation? I came across this quote from Albert Einstein, who's a pretty smart bloke. And what he pulled out here in the middle was, if you have the same thinking, then nothing changes. And so for me, I quite often think innovation is about just thinking about something new, trying to make something change, try and do something different, such as speaking on your second day at work. So the same thinking. If you like your quotes slightly more darker, for those of you that know watch House of Cards and Frank Underwood, he quotes Winston Churchill, who says, to improve is to change often is to perfect. So again, this theme of change keeps coming through, doing something different, different thinking, change. So, does anyone know what that is? Any ideas? David Bowie. So come on a journey with me here. When I think of innovation, I think of David Bowie. So that's Ziggy Stardust. So for those of you who maybe not familiar with David Bowie, you might recognize some of these names. So he went from Ziggy Stardust to Aladdin Sane to the Thin White Duke. He had the Low album, then he had the mad disco of Let's Dance, then he just had the madness of Tin Machine, then he had the genius of Black Star, which he gave us just before he passed. So as he reinvented himself there, he changed his market, he changed boundaries, he changed fashion. Change. He did so, but he took a fair number of his customers, his fans, with him along the way. But each time he brought new ones on board. That's reinvention, that's innovation. So when I think of Bowie, I think of changes. I think of innovation. But of course, innovation is all around us, and I'm sure you've seen this slide or variants of it. The world's largest taxi company doesn't own any cars. The world's largest media company doesn't own any content. The world's largest retailer doesn't have any inventory, and the same for hotels and real estate. So what's the common feature of those organizations? How have they innovated? They're all quite young, and they all use online. And depending on which website you look at, pardon the pun, the internet only became available for mass open consumption somewhere between 1995 and 1997. So that's just about 20 years ago. But these guys have built on that and changed the way that they operate, changed customer behaviors, changed industries. So what does that mean? Do we have a culture of innovation? I came across this. This is the Global Innovation Index, and it's a very recent survey brought together by INSEAD, Cornell, and the Worldwide Intellectual Property Organization. I found it quite interesting. Look at the top four. The top three. Switzerland, Sweden, and the Netherlands. Do those countries come into mind when you think innovation? Do you think change? I was surprised at that. US and UK, perhaps. Now, again, this was slightly more focused on sustainable food supply and how do we create food for the future. So it's a narrow niche, but nonetheless, 3 countries at the top of this making change. So what does that tell us? Do they have a culture of innovation? I love this slide. So I have to credit and acknowledge that this is a Bernard Salt slide. It's not mine. And those of you who ever get the chance to see Bernard Salt speak, grab it. Because if you want to learn about change and what's happening in the future, he's all over it. This is the top 10 companies by market capitalization in the US and in Australia. So let's look at the US. What stands out? What can you see within that list of companies? Tech? Anything else? What about the year in which they were founded? So the ones which are bolded were all founded, without showing my age, after I started primary school. So this is my generation that have created this. Look at them in Australia. There's 4 in the 19th century. A further 4 before the start of World War I. A further 1 before the Great Recession of the 1930s. And then the youngest, at the bottom, squeezes in, and again, show my age, just before I was born. Look at the contrast. So what does that tell you? Does Australia not do innovation? Does it not have new ideas? Does it not have the right culture? I'd love to hear what the panel think about that in terms of what this slide tells us and what it means for our industry and our economies going forward. Indeed, what are the barriers to innovation? The pestle model, a degree of Porter's 5 forces. Do your political, economic, social, technology, environmental, or legal contexts stop you from being innovative? Does it give you an excuse? Or are those the very things that create the opportunities that you should be exploiting? Something to think about for what we do in our day jobs, what we do with our own business models. Are we risk averse? We've all heard of black swans, but the thinking now is about grey swans, something that has a really significant impact on our environment, on our companies, on our structures, but with benefit of hindsight, say, well, we could see that coming, that's no longer a surprise. The black swans were unpredictable. We're now in the era of grey swans. Or are we Lego men? Are we just too busy? I can't change, I'm too busy. I'll just keep doing what I'm going to do. I love that slide. So why am I standing here talking about this? Why PKF? So this is our changed, new way of thinking about what PKF represents. We set ourselves out to be a fresh, vibrant, and viable alternative to the professional services firms. And we do that by getting closer to our clients to get closer to their goals. And for us, innovation can mean things such as data analytics. It can mean the different ways we now have to find and source work. It can mean speaking on your second day at work. It can mean a whole range of things. It can mean partnering with Top Shots. But we want to do that by being innovative audit, risk, and corporate finance advisors. That's why we're here. Now, of course, there are other professional services firms available, but I'll just pause for a second while you think about that. And I'm delighted to welcome you to this session. Hope you have a great session. Christina, thank you for allowing us to be part of your day again, and thank you for your time.